So today you are going to learn 3 different ways that you can make cough medicine from nature, from the plants and the trees that grow naturally around you. So if this was a grid down situation and if you developed a bad cough due to catching a cold or the flu, then this video might be the answer for you. And this video is just one video in a whole playlist that I am doing on how natural medicines can be made in a grid down emergency situation. And I'm going to consume on video every natural medicine that I make so that you can see that they didn't kill me. Now let's get on with it. So now let's jump straight into how you can make your own cough medicine in a grid down situation. Now the first medicine that we're going to learn how to make today is going to be Eastern white pine needle tea. And if you don't have any white pine needles growing in your area, that's okay, because this video is going to still cover 2 other ways you can make cough syrup when the grid goes down. But here is why I choose, and Native Americans also chose to use Eastern white pine needle tea to treat coughs due to a cold and the flu, and that's because first, it's high in vitamin C, and it also supports your immune system. It helps your body fight off infections, and pine needles also help to loosen and expel mucus from your lungs. And it makes it easier for you to cough that junk up. And it's also antimicrobial, which can help stop the growth of some bacteria and viruses. And then the steam from this tea also helps to soothe your respiratory tract. And I can easily tell that this is the Eastern white pine because its needles are in clumps of 5, and I'll hopefully put a picture of that or closer video so you can see that. Now I'm going to collect enough of these white pine needles so that I have enough for 8 teaspoons of white pine needles, or about 2.5 tablespoons of white pine needles. And folks, I am not giving medical advice in this video. I'm only sharing with you what I plan to do should we be in a grid down situation and it's an emergency and I cannot have access to a doctor or a pharmacy. So if you choose to do anything that you see on this video, you do it at your own risk. And now I'm going to wash these needles just to remove any dirt or debris that might be on them. And now I'm going to chop these pine needles into smaller pieces. That way when I make the tea, the good stuff that's inside of them gets more released into the tea. Okay, and because I'm wanting to make about 4 cups of tea, I'm going to bring a little bit over 4 cups worth of water to boil in this. Okay, now since this water's came to a boil, I'm going to remove it off the heat. Now this pine needle tea takes 2 teaspoons of pine needles per cup of tea. Now I'm making a total of 4 cups of tea, so that would be a total of 8 teaspoons of pine needles, or the rough equivalent of 2.5 tablespoons of pine needles. And the reason why I am making 4 cups of this tea is that if I were sick and had a cough, then I could drink 1 cup in the morning, and then another cup several hours later, and then another cup several hours later, and then a cup right before bed. And now since I've dumped my pine needles into the boiling hot water, I now want to cover this and let it steep for the next 10 to 15 minutes, and I want a strong tea, so I'm going to go for the full 15 minutes.
15 minutes later.
All right, now since it's been 15 minutes later, now I'm going to strain this tea, the pine needles out of this tea, through this fine mesh strainer, and I'm going to pour myself a cup of it. And now I'm going to taste it. I'm going to warn you now, I don't do good with hot drinks. As a serious prepper, you can take control of your emergency preparedness by getting an emergency stash of your everyday medications, such as your cholesterol medicine or diabetes medicine or your heart medicine, or you can get an emergency stash of antibiotics known as the JACE case, all through JACE Medical. So click the link below to make a major jump in your medical preparedness plan, and be sure to enter the discount code of ETHICAL to save $10 off your order when you do so. Now let's get back to the video. Oh, that's hot. Freak, that's still hot after 15 minutes. I think I'm going to let this set for a few minutes and cool down before I actually drink it. All right, it's cooled down enough now. Bottoms up. Even though it's got a little bit of a pine needle scent to it, there's not really much of a taste to this. A little bit of an earthy taste, but nothing too strong. And for the dosage of this pine needle tea, from my research, you can drink as much of this that you need to treat your cough, or if you just need a boost of vitamin C. Okay, let's get on with the next medicine. Okay, the second natural cough medicine that we are going to make is going to be from the broadleaf plantain. And no, I am not talking about the thing that you see in the grocery store that looks like a banana I'm talking about the broadleaf plantain. Now here's why the broadleaf plantain is supposed to be good for coughs. First, it contains mucilage that can soothe your throat when it's irritated from coughing. It's also inflammatory, so it can relieve your inflamed throat. It's also an expectorant, so it will help you cough that junk out. It's also antimicrobial, so it'll help combat respiratory infections caused by bacteria or viruses. And then if you have a dry cough, it may suppress your urge to cough. Now, besides also helping with coughs, this is also supposed to help you with arthritis and allergies and also kidney stones. Now, to make this tea, I'm going to grab a handful of the leaves, pretty much minus the stems. Now, if I had already dried these leaves out, I would be using 2 teaspoons of the dried plantain leaves per cup of water. But since I am using fresh leaves, I am just going to grab a handful of these. And I'm especially going to go for the younger and more green and less damaged leaves. And now, since I've got a handful of these broadleaf plantain leaves, let's go make some more natural cough medicine. Now, just like the pine needles, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wash these off to remove any dirt and debris off of them. And now I'm going to cut them up so that way when I make the tea, all their good medicinal qualities get released into the tea. And now I'm going to bring 2 cups of water to boil. 1 cup will be for a tea that I would drink immediately, and then the second cup would be a cup that I would drink later. And now I'm going to place these chopped broad plantain leaves into 1 jar. And now I'm going to pour 2 cups of this boiling water over the leaves so that they start steeping. And now I'm going to cover this jar so that they can steep for the next 15 minutes.
15 minutes later.
Okay, now since it's been 15 minutes, now I'm going to strain this tea through this fine mesh strainer by pouring it from this jar into the other jar. And you can see here this broadleaf plantain tea has a really light yellow look to it now. Now I'm going to pour half of this bottle into this bottle so that it'll make me 2 different cups. If I were sick, I would drink 1 cup right now and then a second cup later today. YouTube seems to like to unsubscribe people. So please make sure that you are subscribed and also hit the all notifications button. Now back to the video. So let's go ahead and test this broadleaf plantain tea out. It has just a little bit of an earthy flavor to it, not too strong. It's actually pretty mild. And from my research, it is recommended that you don't drink any more than 2 cups a day of this to treat your cough or whatever else you're treating with it. Okay, let's get on to the next medicine. Okay, the third medicine that we're going to make today is going to be a broadleaf plantain tincture. So I'm going to harvest enough broadleaf plantains to fill this mason jar. Now I'm going to fill this jar up, but I'm not going to cram pack it down. I'm just going to fit it in there pretty full. And I'm especially going to go for the younger and more green and less damaged leaves. And now I'm just going to wash the leaves like normal to remove any dirt or debris. And because I got those wet when I washed them, and because water dilutes alcohol, the alcohol that we're going to make our tincture with, I have spread these out and I'm going to let them air dry for just a few minutes to get rid of that excess moisture. And now, since these leaves have had a few minutes to air dry to get rid of the excess water, now I'm going to cut them up in pretty small pieces and then dump them into this mason jar. Now I'm going to put these cut up plantain leaves back into the mason jar. Now when I am using fresh leaves instead of dried leaves, I like to fill my jar up about 75% of the way full. And when you account for the airspace that's already in the jar between the leaves, I believe this jar is now going to be about 75% of the way full. And whenever I'm using fresh plant materials in my tinctures, such as fresh leaves or fresh flowers or fresh walnut hulls, I like to use a high-proof vodka like 90 or 100 proof vodka. And that's because fresh plant material has a lot of moisture in it, and moisture dilutes your alcohol. Now if I were using dried leaves, I would probably use 80 proof vodka, but since I'm using these very fresh, just freshly picked leaves, I'm going to use my 100% proof vodka here, and I'm going to fill this jar to the very top rim with this 100% proof vodka. And again, I want the vodka to come to the very top rim here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lid on, and now I'm going to give it a little bit of a shake to see if it releases any air bubbles that may be trapped down here and release them to the top. And now since I've shaken it to release any trapped air bubbles, now I'm going to check the level of alcohol, and if any trapped air bubbles that had been released had caused my level of vodka to go down, then I would just simply pour just a little bit more vodka in there just to top it off. What I don't want is for any of the vegetation to be above the vodka line, because any vegetation that's above the vodka could actually mold, and that could ruin my tincture. So now I'm just going to put the lid back on it, and I'm going to prepare to store it for the next 6 weeks while the vodka extracts all the medicinal good stuff out of these leaves. Now, after labeling of what tincture this is going to be, I am now going to place it in a cool, dark place for the next 6 weeks. And then every couple of days, every couple of days, I will take it out and give it a gentle shake and put it back into storage until it's ready.
4 to 6 weeks later.
Okay, now since it's been in a cool, dark place for 6 weeks, let's go ahead and get the tincture out. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to strain the tincture from the vegetation using this handy dandy little fine mesh strainer. And now I'm going to pour the finished tincture into the dropper bottle. Now for respiratory health, you typically do about 15 to 30 drops into either tea or water. So I'm just going to do 20 drops into water. I don't have a cough, but we'll see how this does. Okay, I got 20 drops in there now. All right, let's see how it tastes. I could taste the tincture in there very lightly. Didn't taste bad at all. And if I did have a cough, I would probably drink this 3 times a day, every couple hours, something like that, while my cough persisted. Hey folks, I am not giving medical advice in this video. I'm only showing what I would do in an emergency grid down situation. So if you try anything that you see in these videos, you're doing it at your own risk. So if you like this video where I quickly showed you step by step how to make this natural medicine, then comment down below with other elements that you would like to see natural medicines made for, because I'm going to be doing plenty more of these types of videos. And to see more videos on how to make natural medicines for different ailments, then click on the playlist that should be appearing on the screen just about now, and this playlist is going to be growing as I film more of these videos. Anyways folks, this is enough internet for me today. I do need to get back to work, and folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.